It's the best night of the week. We hope you're hungry for Pizza Night with Niki and Mike here on Mercado Airwaves. Now, here are your hosts for Pizza Night, Nicole Mancha and Mike Mercado.
Thank you, friends, so much for joining us for Pizza Night with Niki and Mike. I am Mike Mercado, always as joined with the lovely Nicole Mancha. Thank you so much, guys, for your input on last week's episode, moving in together, intimacy in the relationship pre and post, living with one another, and of course Halloween, what it means to be in a relationship when you're single, all that fun stuff. One of our favorite holidays. We got into it a little bit. Niki, did you have any last thoughts about last week's episode?
No, I mean, I think we kind of said everything that we wanted to say about it. Just keep it light. You know, talk to your partner, make sure you're communicating, and I always think that that's the best way to do it, whether it doesn't go exactly the way you plan or not. You know, at least you guys know where you both stand.
So before we get into this week's episode, it's going to be a really fun one, guys. I'm really interested to get Niki's thoughts. I'm really interested to hear what you guys have to think, your personal experiences. It is all about flings versus wanting to be in a relationship. What happens when a fling becomes a relationship, the makes and breaks, things you can't get past, things you have to get past. It's going to be a really interesting subject. Before we get into that, Niki, how was your week? We had a fun episode last week. We got some great response. The show has been growing a little bit. We fixed some of the back behind the scenes audio issues. So how are you feeling going into this episode?
I feel great. I'm super excited. This is not something that I thought I was necessarily going to be good at, but as you and pretty much everyone else reminds me, I'm super good about talking. So yeah. I can talk for hours. Fill time. Yeah. So I am just really excited about where this is going. I was super excited to do this episode. It got delayed for a minute just because we had to go see Thor last night, which was amazing. And you can check out the spoiler version of the whatchamacallit.
Yeah, we did the spoiler review over at The Good Brothers. You can catch that on the channel, iTunes, Mercado Airwaves, on YouTube, Mike Mercado 2333. While you're doing that, do us a huge favor, guys. Like us on Facebook at Mercado Airwaves. And later on in the show, we'll tell you how you can see all of Nicole's work, all the work she's been writing and doing. You can see what Alex is up to. And, of course, all the interviews that I've been doing. Actually just got through interviewing TJ Dillashaw and Ryan Bader, both who won their championships over this past weekend. So it's been a fun time here at the studio. Before we get into everything, it's a fast-paced episode. We got a lot of things to get into here on Pizza Night with Niki and Mike. We have Nicole Mancha. I'm Mike Mercado. Stay tuned.
If you would like to support Mercado Airwaves, visit us at patreon.com/Mercado Airwaves. Find us on iTunes at Mercado Airwaves. Keep up to date with the show on Facebook at Mercado Airwaves. Follow Mike on Twitter at mmercado2333 and on Instagram, Mike Mercado 2333. Mercado Airwaves is brought to you by supporters at patreon.com/Mercado Airwaves. You can see all of Nicole's work at typingwhentipsy.wordpress.com.
So it's a big change when you're going from the bar and, look, you see a cute girl across from it and you introduce yourself to her and, you two start having a good time. And all of a sudden, next thing you know, you've been seeing each other for 3 months and everything that comes with it. Niki, this is the subject of this week with flings versus wanting to be in a relationship. Now, before we go into the subject, let's just get kind of like a definition of what a basis of where this conversation is. So what are we going to consider a fling? Are we going to consider a fling as much as sleeping with somebody as many times as a million, but within is it a time period type of thing, or is it a amount of times type of thing? Like, how on this episode are we going to define what a fling is to what a relationship is?
So I think a fling is any time that the relationship is not defined.
Okay.
When you don't DTR, define the relationship, right? So when it's just you see them when you see them, and there's no holds barred, there's no real dates involved, because I think once you start dating, then it's considered dating. Like if I'm taking you out to dinner, we're going on a date. A fling is not as nice as that. It's a little more crude, a little bit more down and dirty, and I think that's what kind of changes that definition.
Okay, so the baseline is almost no intimacy, almost more just passion, opposed to what you would then consider in a relationship is more the intimacy, the more the getting to know one another. Okay, so now let's start with this point of the aspect. do you think it's healthy to be in a fling at any point of life? Like, do you think it's just as healthy for a 18-year-old to have a fling with somebody as it is, let's say, for a 45-year-old to have a fling with somebody?
I think that if they're both consenting adults and they know what they want, here's the thing. Flings are going to happen regardless. And if you're 18, you're going to make a lot of poor decisions. And sometimes you'd rather make those poor decisions at 18 and not at 45. Sometimes at 45, when you're going on a divorce or something happens in your life that's really monumental and you just need something to kind of take you out of that moment, I think that it can be beneficial in that way. A fling is just... Sometimes I think a fling really comes down to somebody wanting that human interaction without necessarily needing everything else. I know plenty of, of my female friends and male friends who are very career oriented, and that's where their focus is. And that doesn't mean that they want to be celibate. It just means that they're not able to give that person or give a person that kind of attention that you need, because relationships are work. They're hard. They're not easy. And to care about somebody else's feelings is hard.
So I think there's benefits from happening at both examples, and there's also detriment to both sides. Now, I think it's very beneficial for, let's say, a 18-year-old, because at that point, that's when you're able to make mistakes. That's why you have to learn responsibility. That's where you have to learn your emotional spectrum, your physical spectrum. Like, you've been told so many things as a teenager, as a high schooler, and then you're able to finally like break through that, and you're gonna have to learn things. Because again, I think there's certain things that we stunt our growth in, especially in this country. Of all countries, we stunt our growth sexually when it comes to the emotions that come with it, physically and emotionally, mentally, all that. The same thing with a 45-year-old. Like, I can only imagine if you've been married since, let's say, you were out of high school at 18.
Right.
And finally at 45 years old, you've raised a family and you've been with the same person for so long, and you almost therapeutically need that in your life to almost live a fulfilled life. And it's interesting that conversation leaded this way. I was having this talk with a group of my friends a few days ago, and I wondered almost the definition, not even a definition, but like, is a fling the same thing as a one-night stand? Like,
No.
Is that a substitute? So with that in mind, somebody like myself, like, opening the door for things like that, like, I'm not going to get too in detail because, we ain't making enough money for people to get the kids to get that stuff in there. But like, I tend to think I've never had a fling in my life. I've had, again, you guys don't pay to know every detail, but like, I've never had a fling in my life. So I don't know if what I'm saying is even true of the benefits of it, because down the road, I don't know if it's going to affect me, if it's literally just one of those things where, you almost don't miss what you never had. Like,
right.
I don't know. And I wonder if it's a man thing or if it's a human thing where it's like missing out on like a certain food or missing out on a certain activity, or because you didn't go to the dance in 3rd grade or whatever the case may be. Like, I wonder if there's actually some growth benefit from experience that in any time in your life.
This is where I'm going to put my little PSA. Listen to any of the 18-year-olds who listen, please practice safe sex. Mm-hmm. We are not promoting anything besides safe sex here. So, however, I mean, I guess, how do I kind of formulate this? What it is that I think with a fling, it can be beneficial if you choose for it to be beneficial. And I'm going to get probably a lot of hate here, but I think it's very hard for women to have flings because they tend to get very emotionally invested. And that is science, people. So don't jump down my throats, because it is science that women have a different reaction when they are intimate with somebody opposed to men.
But what I think what then happens, so is there's a misconception. What that means that when you hear that, you automatically think that men don't care or they don't get invested. I think that's total BS. I think if science proves all this and that, it's not more than by fractions of a fraction of a number, because there's no way in hell that even with one night stands or just having a girl look at you a certain way when you go through a dry spell, or even when you're the biggest Casanova in the world, like there's there's no way you don't get emotionally invested. And the guys who say they don't are lying. Like, deep down, our monkey brains make us feel that way.
Yeah, and maybe it's just for the moment even, and that's why it's able to kind of shut it off, because I think in the moment you kind of have to be in that moment.
And anything like that.
Not
Like,
even just
well, there's all
that.
X factors for anything like that.
Right.
Like,
No, but what I'm saying is like in the moment, I feel like you can have that connection with somebody because you kind of have to, right? Because if you don't, then like obviously I don't have certain appendages. So I feel like it would just make it not enjoyable anymore to the point where you maybe wouldn't be able to perform. If it's not enjoyable, how do you perform, right? So you have to obviously have some sort of investment in the moment, but it doesn't mean that necessarily lingers. You know what I mean? Women, I think there's a reason that we're so maternal and that we have these natural instincts, right? Because we are taught to care and we're taught to provide that kind of instinct.
So then what happens when we get past that, however down and dirty nonsense we go, when down and dirty becomes, hey, let's go get sushi afterwards? Like, what happens when it becomes an actual thing? And then we get to the point of, oh man, I wasn't expecting to date this person, or I never thought I would be with the cheerleader. Like, I was only into to girls who were into fitness and stuff. It's like, well, no, all of a sudden you're dating,
Well, I think it's kind of, that's where the question comes, like, can a fling become a relationship, right? Like, think about it. Think about how many people you know, and, like, obviously you're a man, you have many male friends. How many of them have you heard of, like, hooking up with somebody, maybe several times, and then it didn't go anywhere? It just kind of dropped off. They lost interest. She lost interest, however it may be.
Well, let me say this. We have a very, just for safe reasons of iTunes, and I don't want to, stupid YouTube and their algorithms taking money away from us. But we used to have this term where, all right, it's going to be very crude, screw yourself into a relationship.
Right.
Where you screw yourself enough, it's usually, imagine the F word, guys, enough into a relationship, it happens. So to me, like, I think more often than not, flings become relationships. I think most relationships are built off of that.
You're looking at one. So.
I mean, perhaps. I don't see. No. See, I don't think that's fair. I think ours was very much a few dates, and like it was very old school in the sense like the first date was an absolute getting to know each other, and like there was no. I don't think like it was and that's the thing. Like I don't think it was a very fiery hookup when we first met or anything like that. Like I don't like that's the thing. Like
you didn't want to meet with me.
Well, like I don't think anybody ever. I think that stuff that you see in the movies in like, oh, there was a spark and everything like that. It's like, no, I didn't see that. Like to me, it was very much, well, let's see what she's all about. Let's talk. And I just think it kind of just, it was what it was. And there was a comfort level into it. It's like, right. I think once in my life have I ever had that type of moment with somebody. And that was at like 16 years old. So I don't even know, like, and that was 12 years ago. So I look back, I'm like, I don't even remember really how that was, if that was literally something that over the years I've planted in my head because of rose-colored glasses. And maybe back then it was just like the biggest of crushes more than it was anything else. So like, I don't know that type of thing that you see in the movies.
Right. I mean, I guess like everybody can kind of have that moment where they feel like they have that instant spark. I don't know. I felt like there was a lot of apprehension when we first started seeing each other because we didn't really know where it was going, and I don't think we planned on it really going anywhere. It was more so like, oh, let's just go and hang out with this person, and now we live together, and we've been living together pretty much ever since. So I think that I think the spark wasn't there until it became physical in any sense, and that's not even talking about sex, just in general. I think I felt the spark, the first time we had a moment together, but when we first met, it wasn't like I was like, oh my god, I'm so in love with you. Right.
Yeah, and that's also the thing that when this conversation was brought up in the pre-show notes, when we first met, I was 25. Yeah, I was 25. Yeah, and I'm 20. I'm 27 now. I'm going to be 28 next year. And there's times where like I sit there and I wonder. I wonder if at that point, if like I think about this in my head, like best case scenario type of stuff. Like I wonder if it would have been better to have meeting you at this age right now as myself than it would have been at 25 years old. Because there's times where I wonder, speaking about missing things and needing things for your growth, whether I did miss things because guys, anybody who's been following me. We were just going through some of my old tapes before we got into recording. I've been doing this since 2013. I didn't go away to college.
Right.
And I didn't experience a lot of things that you did, that a lot of our friends did. And I wonder sometimes, I wonder if at 40, 45, 50, if there is going to be any type of impact. And I'm not even talking about being happy or being not stable or emotionally set. I'm just talking like those weird moments when you're in the gym and you're lost in the zone and something just kind of sparks in your mind because you see a commercial, just like anything like that. I wonder if that transition in that age of like fling to relationship, if there is anything to that.
Yeah, I mean, I think there can be. I think it really just depends on what you get out of it. I think a lot of people who have had flings kind of have the same reaction. Like, I mean, it was fine for the time, but it wasn't anything solidified. And I think there's a lot to say about not wanting to end up alone, right? Like, that's... I
think that's a human concern, like just
exactly.
a species
and
concern.
It's nothing against anybody who's single or who wants to live like that. You're more than welcome to. Like, that is your decision as a human being. But I think that tends to be when you ask your friends and everybody's kind of sitting and talking about things that are going on in their lives or what their biggest fears are, a lot of people say ending up alone. So it comes down to, flings can have their moments, and I think everybody enjoys them who've had them in the moment. I mean, I hope they did. But I think that part of that, it's knowing that it was fine for the second that it happened, but that wasn't the end goal. That was never the end goal. The end goal was to find the person that they wanted to spend their life with.
No, and I think that's a very interesting, and but I think that point also comes from the retrospective look and the hindsight being 2020 from a person that's closer to their 30s than they were to your 20s. We'll continue on to this because we have a lot of stuff that we have to get to on the other half of this show. Let's take a quick break. It's Pizza Night with Niki and Mike here on Mercado Airwaves.
You can see all of Nicole's work at typingwhentipsy.wordpress.com. If you would like to support Mercado Airwaves, visit us at patreon.com/Mercado Airwaves. Find us on iTunes at Mercado Airwaves. Keep up to date with the show on Facebook at Mercado Airwaves. Follow Mike on Twitter at mmercado2333 and on Instagram, MikeMercado2333. Mercado Airwaves is brought to you by supporters at patreon.com/Mercado Airwaves.
Thank you so much, guys, for joining us for Pizza Night with Niki and Mike. And for all those that always ask who that is that you hear in all the promos, big shout out to my guy, Josh Fox. I've been working with this fool for 5 years now, and like he's such a sweetheart. I wish always nothing but the best. Some of the most talented dudes you will know in this business. Josh Foxy, thank you so much for doing all the open closes, all the promos for us. So when you actually hear somebody who sounds professional, that's Josh Fox. Thank you, Foxy. But when we're making this turn into this half of the show, this is one of the things that I wanted to run by you leading into what we were talking about, of how maybe it's beneficial or it's a detriment to your growth. One of the things that when you're around a lot of my friends is you hear a lot of the conversations of looking back and having good times and doing things like that. I think as a man, it's so much more, and this is very general. So, and again, maybe this just goes into my psyche, but I think it's very, I think it's like missing the shot that you never took. You're looking back with retrospective eyes and you're like, man, I would be better today because I wouldn't want that. Mm-hmm. But I wonder if as a dude, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if I have been with a billion, if I was Ric Flair or Wilt Chamberlain, 1,000 women. No, before the age of 22. I don't think it would have mattered. I wonder if it doesn't matter because as a dude, like maybe again being just so general and so broad, but I wonder if it just wouldn't have mattered. Maybe the lack of experience that I had at that age to just in general in life. Like I don't think I don't think, and again, I don't want to make it seem like it's only about one thing, but since this episode's about flings and about,
right.
About becoming into relationships, I don't even think I ever was average when it comes to that. Like, I think I very much self-destructed myself and, was content with, like, blaming others and just, like, using excuses of me just being lazy and not wanting to. Because here's the thing. Here's the truth, guys. It's actual work. People don't want to be with losers, so you have to actually go do stuff in society. So I wonder, like, if it even made a difference. Like, had I lived the life of Van Wilder, would have made a difference.
No, because there's always another tale, right?
Sure.
Like the thing is every day there's someone that's born that is more beautiful than you. And as we've all talked about before with like our group of friends, is like you can be a 70-year-old man and still have a kid. Like, but
right, the potency stays
right,
there.
But that's what I'm saying. So then that kind of testosterone still stays there, right? So it's like there's a reason that Hugh Hefner had like a 30-year-old woman. He was rich, like god awful rich, but also because of just what he wanted. Like that's what he wanted to do with his life. That's how he wanted to live his life. So it's. There's always going to be something else. Like, there's a reason that he kept dating women who were 30, no matter how old he got. So, like, there's always tail to chase.
So now let's go into this scenario in which you've been with somebody and now you're in a relationship. Like, hey, you know what? I really like this person. I think we're just going to chill out now, and you become a couple, and then there becomes things that you can't get past. So, like. Let's say the person that you're with is a gamer. And they love to play video games. And you knew that about them, but you didn't know that about them. You didn't know that they literally are a gamer. That's what they do all day. They go on Twitch and they game. Or let's say they're a workout freak and all they want to do is go work out. They're at the gym for 3 hours a day. Like, they literally spend 3 hours a day at the gym. Like, what ends up becoming what is that level of, like, things you can't get past? Is there even things you can't get past if you like somebody enough?
You know what? I always think it's really interesting when people say that they don't see the same things that other people see when, they're in love. I'm like, no, that's bullshit. Like, there are things that bother you. Whether you can get past it or not is totally different. I think that, your mom's a really good example. She does not like smoking. Your dad's a smoker, right? Like, but she gets past it because she loves him and she doesn't, you know what I mean? If it was anybody else, it may not take on the same connotation. It just depends on what you're willing to move past and if you're okay with moving past it. I think there are people who use those things to break up with somebody.
Okay, so then but at that point, then, is it just an excuse then, right? Like, you're just looking for the way out?
Most of the time. Yeah. I would agree with most of the time. I think there are certain things that obviously people can't get past. Like, if you know that your boyfriend had dabbled into some interesting drugs, but then you find out 6 months into it, he's doing meth. Yeah, that's a reason to break up with somebody. Sure. Like, that's something that's a break. You know what I mean? If your boyfriend's a gamer, you knew he was a gamer. It's not like, the thing is, you can't hide that for very long. So then how long have you been with somebody or known them that you're not aware?
But if you're getting just down and dirty with somebody, like,
it's true.
Like,
I think you can get past it, I think, but isn't it about compromise at that point too, where it's like, hey, don't game when we're eating dinner. Like, I feel like those are
pretty hard. That's pretty talented. You can't. I don't know if you're willing to make compromises with somebody that you weren't expected to do anything with, that you weren't expected to be anything with.
Yeah, I mean, I think every relationship's what a compromise then, and if they're not willing to compromise, I guess my question kind of becomes, then how devoted are they in that relationship?
But then how many bad relationships do you see?
True. Like, the thing is, it's really about what you're willing to take in a relationship and what you're willing to give, and that goes both ways. That's not there's no real clear-cut answer for things like that, I think, because we're talking about something that if you care about somebody, you usually can get past. As long as it's not detrimental to you and can hurt you in any way or hurt them personally, I think that most of the time you can get past it.
Do you get mad when you see people break up for the same reason over and over again?
Yes. Yes. I think that if you broke up the first time, then you probably shouldn't have gotten together the second time. I think that those things can change if you have some time apart from somebody, because people do grow. I'm a huge believer. Like, I think about myself even 4 or 5 years ago, and I'm a totally different person. I've so grown into who I am, and I'm grateful for it. But I can't imagine being that person. I was in a relationship in college, and we broke up and got back together like 2 months later, and then it ended the same way. It was horrible. It should just have stayed broken up because it wasn't worth any of the emotions that went into it.
See, I think it's all aesthetics. I think if you're going to break up, let's say you're just, for the time being, you and that other person are just, you're in that loop with one another. It's like you're not really interested in anybody else. You're interested in that person, but you're more worried about that person being with somebody else than you are necessarily being with that person. I think a lot of people go through that, but I also think there's a way you go at it. So if, for example, you really like this person and you're just, it's time to end the relationship, or like you shouldn't get back with them, but you just can't help it, and right now it's just it just is what it is, fine. But it's when we live in this new social media day and age where we all see it. And there's also a way about it. Here's the one thing, right? I'm going to use an extreme example. It's like when divorced parents talk shit on the other parent.
Yes.
It's like, man, there's still aesthetics you have to keep up. Don't talk shit on the person that you're sleeping with and then you break up with, and then we know you're going to get back with when then all of a sudden, let's just say worst case scenario, your friends are like, yeah, you know what? That you're right on that. Like, we're surprised it lasted this long. It's like, oh, my bad. Like, I didn't realize that we were already on the talking stages of the next breakup before, it's like, I think there's all aesthetics to it, but you have to give people the benefit of the doubt and the break of like, hey, look maybe this is the time. This is the one.
But then I think it also comes down to knowing who to say things to and knowing who not to say things to. Yes, I am appreciative of Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all of these lovely platforms that we have. Know how to use them. Because you can't expect people to be okay with this person that you're with if all you're doing is bashing them. I don't care if they're the father of your children. But if you literally sit online and say how horrible they are and you caught them cheating on you and this and that, and then 15 minutes later you're like, oh my God, I love them so much. They bought me a vacation. It's like, well, this isn't a relationship then. This is just a joke. And who's the moron here? Like, really? And that's the upsetting part. People use these social platforms to do that and then want everyone to be like, oh, but I want it. Why can't he come out with us? He's my whatever, my significant other. And your friends hate him. Well, yeah, your friends are going to hate him because you literally were just blasting all this stuff in public. Keep your private situations private, people.
Really fast, little side note you just brought up. How annoyed, or is it annoying, or is it a good quality when a boyfriend wants to spend all his time with his girlfriend in the idea of like, hey, I want to go hang out with the girls, and he's like, oh, can I come with?
I hate that. I think that as much as you want your boyfriend or your girlfriend to want to spend time with you guys, I think it's extremely important to have your own independent selves. I think a lot of times you lose that sense of self when you lose your friends. That's not to say you can't make friends with their friends or make friends with, their friends' significant others, because I think that's also a good thing to have, is have a group that you know that if you're going to see a lot, to kind of have those people you can hang out with. But I don't ever understand, like I've said before, you are obviously my person. You're my lobster for all of our Friends fans.
Nice.
But I have a best friend. My best friend is there for me and knows me in a different way than you do. And that's how it should be, because you want to have the distinction Because my best friend is the girl that I can call when I'm crying about the fact that my nail polish isn't matching my clothes. Like stupid things that you probably don't care about, to be honest with you, but you're the person I call when my day has been really rough and it's been really hard, and you're the first person I want to talk to. You're my partner, and that's the difference, I think, in the whole realm of it all.
All right, well, you know what? Why don't I have a fun little game that we're going to play next here on Pizza Night with Niki and Mike. So why don't we wrap this up in just a little bit?
You can see all of Nicole's work at typingwhentipsy.wordpress.com.
So let's go ahead off the cuff. Let's play a little game. Let's play Make or Break. In a relationship, is it going to make it or is it going to break it? Okay? So let's go into, let's just start naming them off the cuff. Make or break, smoking.
It wouldn't break. I wouldn't love it, but it wouldn't break. It's just a bad habit, and I feel like you never want that person that you're with to, like, you don't want to know that every time they're taking a puff, they're losing 7 minutes off their life. Like, that's a really big bummer if you really break it down.
Mama's boy.
I mean, I think all you Mercado brothers are kind of mama's boys, so I guess.
That's fair.
So it wouldn't break it. I think it depends on the level. Like, what is that show? You know what show I'm talking about? The creepy hotel, the Bates Motel. Like, yeah, that is an Bates unhealthy Motel. Relationship.
Yeah, Norman right Bates. Yeah, that's definitely an extreme
that's like
example.
An Oedipus complex. You know, like things like that where you have to ask your mother what to wear. I think that's a problem. But mama's boy, in the sense that you respect your mother, means you're more likely to respect women.
Work at it.
It can be a break. I think that if your work is really important, you want to know that somebody is passionate about it. But if you can't make time at all, then you're just not ready. And it's nothing wrong with you as a person, but it definitely can affect the relationship.
A drinker. Right. Now, you could take that wherever way you want to. You could take it as somebody who just has a beer a day, or somebody who has the possibility of making it a real thing. Just as a smoker, a drinker.
If it is on occasion or socially, or at the end of the day you want to have a beer, I think that's fine. Anybody who does more than that, it would break it. I've been with people who were alcoholics, whether they thought they were or not, and it's significant. It's a really hard thing to get past.
One that a lot of people actually have to live with. Somebody who has a kid or kids. And you know what? I'll even make it tougher. With multiple parents.
Okay. So if it's the same parent, I think that's fine. And I also think it also depends on the situation, because there are situations,
of course,
like
there's always a situation.
My older brothers have different parents, so like it's situational. I think if it just comes down to it's a man and they have 3 children from 3 different people, that's a break. You obviously don't want to be with those people, or you're just popping kids into anybody that you can. And again, I don't know the situation. Maybe people have the situation and I shouldn't judge. But for me personally, I couldn't do it. I think if somebody has a kid that's different, that doesn't bother me. My whole family is a mishmash of adopted children.
Welcome to the internet. It doesn't matter. They're going to hate on you, whatever you
I know.
And it doesn't matter.
How about I ask you one?
Yeah, go ahead. You want to ask me? Go for it. Yeah, go for it.
Clingy. And you can take it the way you want to. You can explain yourself.
No, I'd rather somebody who cares that doesn't care.
Yeah, that's accurate. Likes to make your decisions. Or likes to make decisions for both of you.
Oh, break. No. Like, there's one thing to make decisions, like to make life easier. I don't have to do it. Like, I don't have to do anything. But if you make decisions for me in any given way, like, you just never know how anybody feels the day after work or after doing anything. Like, you just don't know how anybody feels. So, no, that's a break. Don't ever, and it has nothing to do with what chromosome you have. Just don't ever make a decision for another person. So, unless they're your child.
Okay, so you work morning shift.
Sure.
Just so everybody
Not
knows.
a morning shift. I work early morning shift, not just a morning shift. Yeah.
She works night shift.
No, that's not. That's fine. If anything, that makes the heart grow fonder. Like, I think there's always a benefit to some type of space. I think that's great. Like, not working the same schedule. I think that's awesome.
I guess bossy. Would you like? And you can take that, like I said, however you want it.
Yeah, I think that's not a break. I think bossy, as long as it's not rude. Like, there is a difference. Like, you could be bossy as a man or a woman, but if you're rude, you know, I'll smack the shit out of you. Like, don't be rude. Like, my mama could yell at me. Like, don't, like, I'd be damned if I had a daughter and a man speaks to her in a way where it's bossy. Like, nah, you know, like, rude, I should say. Like, bossy is like, hey, let's go, let's clean this house, let's do it. Like, we gotta leave, we gotta do this. Like, cool. No, I'm with you. Like, I need a little fire under my ass, but if you're rude and you're like, hey, you fat, lazy piece of shit, get off the couch, it's like, all right, I'm going to get off the couch, but you kind of suck.
So here's one. How about if she got along great with your parents, but your brothers, like her and your brothers have issues getting along?
Nah, you know what? Because here's the thing. You're right. If you end up with somebody, look, I personally believe the person you end up with, if you're lucky enough or you're smart enough or your eyes are open enough, you'll be able to catch certain things. And if somebody's not cool, and if you're tight with your brothers or you're tight with your sisters, chances are you're tight with your parents too. But if you're not, let's say in that scenario, you're tight with your brothers or sisters, more often than not, the person that you're gonna end up with, seriously,
yeah,
they're gonna like them one way or the other. You know, I'm not, again, talking about the fling thing earlier. Like, if I'm just hooking up with somebody, they don't need to get along with everybody. They have to be respectful to one another.
Absolutely.
But, you know, I don't need you to be best friends. But, like, in your case, it was like, no, very much like they all got along. And I expected that because of how similar my brothers and I are, how similar my mother is more specifically, and, like, how, you know, how open my dad is to, like, accepting people in. So, like, I expected kind of it to work out, but like to me, whenever I hear like, oh, my girlfriend doesn't get along with my brothers, I'm like, hey, bro, somebody gotta go, and the one that don't got your last name has to do it.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair. I think that's really fair.
And like, and we actually, you know, I think to be fair to a lot of women that get put in a scenario where like brothers or like family get put in between them, I think that's BS too. I think there's responsibility of the family to also know their place. Like, my brothers will never, ever feel like, put me in a position to be like, hey, you have to choose, do something with her, do something with us.
Right.
I think there's a lot of people who get put in that scenario. I think that's very important to also check your family in. So.
No, I think that's a good point. I mean, I come from the other side where I can see how I would probably try to make it work, but I also see I'm a very social person, and I'm a, social butterfly, and I like to talk. But it can be a lot to come into a family if you're a quieter person and they are very vocal. And
vice versa, if you're very vocal and you go to a very conservative, like, tight-knit family.
Yeah. No, for sure. That's what I got for you.
Cool. All right, guys. I think that's it, though. I think we've pretty much covered it all. We've done makes or breaks. We've gone to things you can't get past. We've been able to open up a little bit about flings and to be in a relationship. And these are subjects that Niki and I, we really want to bring it to the table because we feel like a lot of couples are talking about these things, and I always just kind of wonder if people just kind of deal with the same stuff. And I guess this is kind of where the show, kind of the idea of the pizza night came from.
Right.
So I'm having a lot of fun with the guys. I hope you guys are too. Be interactive. We want to know what you guys are saying. When you guys are listening to us, when you guys have us up on iTunes, or you guys have us up on SoundCloud, wherever you listen to us on YouTube, on Facebook, I want to know what comes in your mind when you hear me talk about what I'm thinking about when I was 18 or what I missed out on, or when Nicole's talking about whether or not you could be with somebody with different baby mamas. Like, these are conversations that I know you guys are having. I'm really interested what you guys have to say, and at some point I want to make you guys involved with the show, so please let us know, comment, like, share, review. Niki, it's been another fun episode. Anything else you wanna add before we get the hell out of here?
I don't think so. I think this was awesome. I'm super excited. I can't wait to see what we do next week.
Yeah, so we're going to have a fun episode next week. We have a vacation we have planned coming up. We're going to Whale's Vagina, also known as San Diego. So that's going to be really fun. We're going to do an episode about getting ready for vacations, everything after the vacation, how to plan doing fun stuff, how to make compromises for things like that. But in between the vacation, we have Thanksgiving.
Yes.
After the vacation, we have Christmas. We have New Year's. A lot of fun stuff that we have to get to. So let us know if there's anything in between that you want to get to before we do the vacation episodes, the Thanksgiving episodes, the New Year's, and the Christmas ones. If there's any, we've been getting some emails and some suggestions. So anything else, please just tweet at me at mmercado2333 and like us on Facebook at Mercado Airwaves. Nicole will also be checking out these things as well. So, let us know, guys. Be interactive. I really want to know what you guys want to listen to. That'll do it for us, guys. We hope you enjoyed your meal with us here on Pizza Night with Niki and Mike. You can check out everything on the network here on Mercado Airwaves. We had The Good Brothers with Alex Mercado and myself. We reviewed Thor Ragnarok. We also talked about Thor and the Incredible Hulk, everything that it's meant over these last 10 years, why Alex has the biggest man crush on the Gamma Ray Freak. So it was a fun episode. Really excited that we've got these audio quality issues fixed up, because you guys deserve the best from us, especially because you guys are giving us so much time listening to these episodes. 45 minutes on The Good Brothers, another 45 minutes here on Pizza Night with Niki and Mike. It's fun for us. It's exhausting for me, but it's what we love to do. So thank you guys so much for being a part of the show, for being part of the network. For Nicole Mancha, I'm Mike Mercado. You've been listening to Pizza Night with Niki and Mike here on Mercado Airwaves. See you next week, guys.
See ya.
Thanks for joining us here on Pizza Night with Niki and Mike here on Mercado Airwaves. If you would like to support Mercado Airwaves, visit us at patreon.com/Mercado Airwaves. Find us on iTunes at Mercado Airwaves. Keep up to date with the show on Facebook at Mercado Airwaves. Follow Mike on Twitter at mmercado2333 and on Instagram, MikeMercado2333. You can see all of Nicole's work at typingwhentipsy.wordpress.com. Mercado Airwaves is brought to you by supporters at patreon.com/Mercado Airwaves.